it's really great that you're here tonight, and I think the fact that the turnout is as big as it is, based on really just getting the word out. You know, that there's no organization, there is no one organization that made this happen. It was all of us that made this happen. And I think it says something about the importance of the issues that we're facing. And it says something about you and all of us, that you're willing to take the time out of your busy lives. All of you are activists in one form or another, and you decided to take the time out and come here tonight. And it says something about the importance of these issues. And I'm not going to speak for very long because we have speakers from New York that we mainly want to hear from. But just to kind of give a bit of an overview is, from my point of view, we're facing really two crises. You could break it down in a lot of different ways, but I think you can simply break it into two crises. And one, there's a crisis in terms of the stratification of our society, the ways in which the gap between the rich and the rest of us has been growing and growing and growing. And there was a period of time just before World War II and for a few decades after World War II where that gap was getting narrowing. It was getting narrower and narrower. And it had a lot to do with the fact that unions were strong and were building. It had a lot to do with the fact that the US economy was strong. But somewhere around the mid-70s, that really changed. And the folks that pull a lot of the strings in this society decided that they had given up a lot more than they wanted to give up, and they wanted to keep accumulating more. And so, what we've been facing are years now in cutbacks in real income, cutbacks in jobs that have good salaries, good benefits, cutbacks in retirement funds, cutbacks in school funding, cutbacks in infrastructure that we need to have a good society, and the list could go on and on. And so we have a crisis that has to do with incomes and jobs. And somewhere along around the same time that crisis started really brewing, and we know that for some people, that crisis has always been in existence for hundreds of years. But somewhere around that crisis that started brewing in the mid-70s and has continued up until today, we also started developing an environmental crisis. And despite the fact that we have laws that make the air less polluted, make our waters less polluted, our society as a whole was turning its back on the fact that we were changing the entire climate. And I think that people here probably all know about that, and I don't have to talk about that much. But the fact that in the last 20 years, something like 16 out of the last 20 years have been the warmest years on record. And warm is probably not the right term, right? Because that makes it sound cozy and warm, right? We're cooking the planet. And that has impact on our ability to grow crops. It's going to cause sea levels to rise. It causes cities to flood. It causes more frequent storms that are more damaging. It causes droughts in one part of the world and simultaneously causes devastating floods in another part of the world. And we don't have to go back in time or go forward in time to see when that was happening. We know that there were devastating floods in Texas and Oklahoma last week. And California, much of California is in an ongoing drought. And so it really, at some point, calls into question the ability of our society to continue as a civilization. There was an interesting study by NASA not long ago, funded by NASA, that pointed to two major causes of collapses of major civilizations, regional civilizations in the past. One of them was social stratification, where the wealthy in the society could kind of pretend that there wasn't a problem because they were protected from it until it was too late. And then the whole society collapsed. And does that sound familiar today? And the other one was environmental changes, regional environmental changes. But what's different today is that these crises are global. They're not just regional. So we're not going to solve those problems tonight. I'm sorry, we probably thought we were. But that's the context in which we're doing this work. And so we have a real exciting group of speakers from New York who have done a bunch of good work to try to link these two crises and link the solutions. So some people like to say 2 crises, 1 solution. That we actually, with the kind of public works program that was generated decades ago in this country, we responded to Pearl Harbor by mobilizing and mobilizing and mobilizing. And we met that threat. We're not going to talk about whether that was a good idea, a bad idea or not tonight, but we met that threat by mobilizing. It probably requires some kind of a massive mobilization like that again, although ironically, it involves demilitarizing, not militarizing this time, and using the money that we spend on wars that we don't need to be fighting, they don't help anybody, and use it for the needs that we have at home, including our environmental needs. So that's the context that we're looking at here.